Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. September the 2nd, the transfer window is officially closed. And in today's video, we're going to go through all of what happened on deadline day. Obviously, a lot of people right now have had a lot to say about how good was Chelsea's transfer window. I'm not going to go into that in this video. I want to spend a bit more time looking at the squad. I'm going to go onto the tactics board, see what we've got in terms of depth in each position. Who can play where? Have we actually improved across various different areas of the pitch? But today, we're going to wrap up and summarize everything that happened on deadline day yesterday. And I want to say a big shout out to each and every one of you that tuned in for the deadline day live stream. I think we peaked at about 5,500 of you watching at some point in the last couple of hours of the window. And then, as it looked pretty obvious and pretty clear that Chelsea weren't going to be getting any incoming business done, everybody was kind of just like, all right then, well, that was the summer. There was the transfer window. That was fun. Let's move on and focus on the football. So make sure you're subscribed to GBFC. It was a mad summer, but we are in it now for the season. Chelsea second in the Premier League. International break for the next couple of weeks. Still expect videos here on GBFC and maybe some other things as well. Who knows? Little hint for some of you there. But anyway, before we go any further, if you do want to buy anything from the Chelsea Mega Store right now, use the discount code GBFC10 and it gets you 10% off anything and everything at the Chelsea Mega Store. There's also a link in the description if you can't scan the QR code that is on the screen now. And let's move into the latest here. And let's take a little look first of all at this, which was literally right on the deadline last night. Exclusive, Strasbourg agree deal to sign Ben Chilwell on 2-year contract. Here we go. Medical done and Chilwell joins ambitious project at Strasbourg with Liam Rossignol with European football. There he is, Chelsea's Champions League winning left back, Benjamin bloody Chilwell. I won't lie, this is massive for Chelsea, and it might go under the radar a little bit because most of us get more excited about players coming in, but Chelsea might have just saved themselves about 20 million quid here with the length of Ben Chilwell's contract, and he was one of the highest paid players at Chelsea Football Club. Obviously, we've got to talk about the big elephant in the room right now, which is Raheem Sterling is still a Chelsea player. Axel Disasi is still a Chelsea player, and with Disasi, there was actually interest in him from Premier League clubs, such as West Ham United, but Disasi was like, do I want to go there? Nah, not really. Axel Disasi would much rather still get paid decent wages at Chelsea and not be a part of the plan. So if that's what you're into, mate, fair enough. Obviously, it's frustrating because that would have been yet another player that clearly isn't part of Enzo Maresca's plans. But when it comes to Ben Chilwell, there's obviously a big discussion to be had in football right now, particularly when you look at what happened to Mark Guehi at the end of the window last night. He's been the consummate professional at Crystal Palace, even played against Aston Villa and scored a worldie on Sunday, despite being desperate to get that move to Liverpool. Didn't kick up a fuss, didn't refuse to play, didn't do an Alexander Isak, didn't do what a lot of other players have done, digging their heels in and borderline disrespecting the clubs that pay their salaries. Mark Guehi doesn't get a move, Isak gets the move. I wonder, football's gone wrong. But anyway, Ben Chilwell never complained. Ben Chilwell was basically frozen out of Chelsea for a couple of years now. And as much as his Chelsea career was hampered by injuries, that run to win us the Champions League will go down in history. Ben Chilwell was such a huge part of that. And I wish him all the best. The Strasbourg project, by all accounts, even though it's still a Blue Co thing, obviously technically we'll still be paying his wages. I don't know what his wages are going to be now that he's signed a 2-year deal at Strasbourg. But for Chelsea to get this off our books, financially, as much as the window may not have been the most enthralling ending, I think a lot of us would have, we're going to talk about Mark Guiu's return and the striker situation a little bit in a moment, but a lot of us would have either wanted a striker to come in if Jackson's going to go, which is what we're going to talk about next. But I still think Chelsea, there was a lot of stuff that we needed to get done. Obviously, a couple of deals also fell through yesterday, particularly for Tyrique George. And that is the next story that we're going to discuss here. Tyrique George stays at Chelsea and will be a part of the Champions League squad. The deal with Fulham has collapsed last minute. And of course, there's Tyrique George with the Conference League trophy. And David Ornstein also reported this: Fulham strike agreement with Chelsea to sign Tyrique George, deal for 19-year-old winger worth 22 million package plus sell-on. Personal terms in place on 5-year contract, and in the end, it's ended up falling through. Maybe this was something to do with Chelsea and actually looking at the squad and being like, well, we need another winger. Why would we need another winger? I think if anything, this is the most frustrating thing for Tyrique George, because he knows now that Garnacho's come, Jamie Gittins as well, he's third in the pecking order. Yes, he got a few minutes last season. Yes, he played at the weekend. I don't think Tyrique George is ready. Even if this move to Fulham would have gone through, a lot less pressure at Fulham to perform every single week probably, and he probably wouldn't even be first choice there either. But if I was Tyrique George, I'd be disappointed. I think he looked as though in his head he was already gone at the weekend, and the deal managed to fall through. So that is 22 million that Chelsea thought we were going to have that we didn't end up getting. So let's move now into the latest updates here regarding the Nicolas Jackson story. Bayern director Ebel, even during the difficult situation, Nico Jackson has never worried or had any doubts. He simply said, I want to be here and want to play for FC Bayern. That was impressive. We tried everything in the background to make it happen. Nicolas Jackson there in a Bayern Munich shirt, and he is now a Bayern Munich player on a season-long loan for 16.5 million euros. This is an amazing fee for Chelsea to get for our third choice striker. He would have been probably second choice now because of Liam Delap's injury. We'll get into that in a moment. But for that to be the loan fee, excellent from Chelsea. It's even more than the 15 million euros initially. And then there is an obligation to buy. It's a bit of a grey area right now for Chelsea, this, as to what that obligation officially looks like, because Bild in Germany, which is news outlet, were reporting yesterday that it's going to be a very high amount of games in order for that obligation to be triggered by Bayern Munich. So maybe we end up seeing Jackson come back next season. I think we are, and no one wants to rely on an injury or hope for an injury, but realistically, unless Harry Kane gets injured, is Jackson going to get loads of game time? He's certainly not going to be playing off the left when Luis Diaz is there. Obviously, Musiala is injured. He's not going to be playing as a 10. Jackson's not a 10 anyway. So I do wonder how much game time Jackson's actually going to get. But I'm sure Bayern Munich have got a plan for him. Otherwise, regardless of what that obligation is, why would you pay 16.5 million, a world record loan fee, to loan a striker that probably isn't going to play? That would be ridiculous. And I don't think Bayern are that stupid. But regarding Nicolas Jackson, fair play, I guess, on a personal level for digging your heels in and trying to push this move. The one thing I don't like about this is how Jackson's agent is coming out on socials and he's trying to basically make it like, well, Chelsea didn't respect Jackson and now he's gone to Bayern Munich, a massive club, and there's a big project and a plan and all this stuff. I think Chelsea really did respect Nicolas Jackson. We had him as a starting striker, having only been a starter for Villarreal for 6 months. He comes to Chelsea, gets given 2 seasons as Chelsea's lead striker. By all accounts, doesn't do badly, but he certainly didn't do enough for us to be confident going into year 3, thinking that's our number 9. That's our striker. He's going to win us the Premier League. And that's what the standard should be at Chelsea Football Club. However, that's kind of difficult to roll with when we think about the options that we've got right now. And I'm going to try here because I think it's difficult to not... We have to put it into context, okay? Chelsea have restrictions on how much money we could spend yesterday and for the recent time. Since July the 4th, when the UEFA restrictions about how much money Chelsea have to make in order to be able to spend and register players for the Champions League. As soon as that rule came in and that almost punishment came, Chelsea were capped. We had our hands tied behind our backs a little bit. If Nicolas Jackson would have been sold on a permanent and we got that money this summer, we may have been able to go on the market and get a Fermin Lopez, get a Morgan Rogers, get a Xavi Simons even. Do you know what I mean? But we didn't get that. We got the loan fee now with an obligation tentatively next summer for Jackson. So Chelsea's hands were tied. But Mark Guiu coming back from Sunderland, having played less than half an hour at Sunderland, to be Chelsea's backup striker with only João Pedro as a recognised striker, I cannot lie, this is scary. If anything is to happen to João Pedro, be it on Brazil international duty right now, or in any of the time in the next 2 or 3 months, Chelsea are relying on a player that couldn't even start for Sunderland in the Premier League and the Champions League. Now, Marc Guiu is a player that I have a lot of respect for. I'm excited about his future. I think he's a bright spark. He's young, he's bullish, he's confident, but he's still so erratic and young. But Chelsea Football Club, having made record sales this summer, spent a couple of 100 million as well. We've only currently got 2 recognised fit strikers at the club. One of them was loaned to a newly promoted side, and we've bought him back. There's no denying that the end of this transfer window has been a mess for Chelsea. Long-term top target, Xavi Simons, didn't sign. Goes to our biggest rivals, who also sign a really solid backup striker, Kolo Muani, on deadline day. Well done, Tottenham. You very rarely hear me say that, but it's true. They've strengthened. They look good. Thomas Frank, good manager. Scary prospect, potentially. As for Chelsea, I think we've got a great squad. I'm not going to go too much into how I feel about the squad. We're going to do a big video tomorrow talking about all of that. But as for deadline day, Ben Chilwell going is great news. Big wages off the books. Jackson, I think it's a good deal for Chelsea. Eventually, I think if we do get everything, the profit will be something along the lines of like 44 million on Nicolas Jackson, which is fantastic. Euros, that is. We didn't sell Disasi, which is a problem. Raheem Sterling is still owed £34 million of wages in the next 2 years. He's got young kids. He doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. He wants to stay in England, so he's going to take his paycheck at Chelsea. Not a great end to the window. Facundo Buananotte signs. I'm actually starting to get more excited about him the longer time goes on. I still think he could be a really solid player for us. But to say that yesterday was underwhelming is an understatement. Great news about Chilwell. If he'd have stayed as well, that's another 20-odd million we'd have owed him in wages. So fair play to Chilwell. Disasi, enjoy doing nothing, mate. Sterling the same. Maybe he goes to Turkey, Saudi, I don't know. The window's still open there. And Tyrique George, that falling through, we don't need even more wingers. We needed potentially a centre-back, potentially a goalkeeper, potentially another striker. We did not need more left wingers. So Tyrique George staying, he'll be bitterly disappointed. I don't think that's great news for Chelsea either. Marc Guiu, this could be the story of Chelsea's deadline day. Guiu comes back. Is he ready? I'm going to say no right now. I'm not confident about this. I'm really, really worried about it. But let's see. I love this squad right now. I'm backing Enzo Maresca to the hills right now too. We're in a great position. 7 points out of 9. Let's see what happens post-international break. Fingers crossed, man, that Cole Palmer can get fit and nothing happens to João Pedro. Otherwise, I genuinely think we could be doomed before we've even began. And I know that's a bit negative, but I cannot sit here and tell you that having João Pedro and Marc Guiu as my strikers going into September fills me with the world of confidence. But anyway, let's wait and see. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please do subscribe to GBFC if you are new and haven't already done so. I'll catch you guys tomorrow for a big roundup of the entire transfer window. Come on, you Blues.